Thank you, everybody, once again for watching or listening to the podcast. Tell me your story. This is your host, Chris Baker. Today's guest to tell his story is Pete. Give it up for Pete. So, like we always do, we're going to jump into this and just kind of start from the very beginning to talk about childhood. Pete, the first question I like to ask you is, can you tell me about your early childhood, the most crazy memories you can remember from that time period?
Wow, that goes back some time. Um, I'll tell everybody I was blessed, and now that's the whole theme of today is about how blessed we all are. But I had two amazing parents. Um, I've lost them both since, obviously, but I'm not sure how obvious that is. But I lost both my parents. But I grew up. Um, I got an older brother. My dad was my coach in just every sport I did. He was always there. I remember when he retired, my speech to him was, "Man, I just hope I become half the man that he is." Um, he was a salesman, had a vivacious, just a hilarious kind of personality. He was always in the discussions. Wow, he's a heck of a man. And my mom was, she was always right there by her side. And they raised my brother and I, and I tell you, it was pretty fascinating. It was just looking back now as a parent. Oh, I hope I do. I hope I did half as good as they did. Crazy moments. I don't know. I mean, it was pretty straight up. We grew up in Northwest Ohio, Bowling Green, and played sports there. We didn't do a whole lot of crazy stuff. I took our vacations. My dad's family was from Florida. He was a deep Southern boy. Grew up in Mississippi, and we're talking about the ropes for belts, and the front porch is made of wood, and half the slats were missing. And um, he was deep South, and so we'd go down to Florida visiting his mom, my grandma. His dad passed away when he was young, but visiting my grandma, and I mean, she lived in a mobile home with a metal roof, and every time it rained, it just felt like you were getting attacked. And Blue Angels would fly by because she was in Pensacola, and we'd go fishing, and it was just a really cool kind of memory. Just living that. And I don't know, I can't really say we had a whole lot of craziness. We were pretty typical families back then, I think, but it was a pretty strong family.
So describe to the younger generation that are kind of, blessed with technology, all this stuff, just kind
Yeah.
of right at the source of their fingertips. Kind of describe what your childhood was like. Was it?
Yeah, I tell you what, yeah. I went to college. I went to BGSU, and I went there to play football, but I also went there to be a computer science major. Um, and my freshman year of college was the very first time I ever saw a computer. I just thought, well, I mean, these things sound like they're the next best thing, so I should probably jump into them and get involved with it. So I tried to be a computer science major, and I can remember me and my buddy Dave. He was a tight end on the team, and he was trying to be a computer science major too. So we'd go down to the computer lab and we'd write our programs, and then you'd have to wait. Back then, you'd have to wait probably 3-4 hours for the computer lab to kick back your program to tell you what was wrong about it. And it could be something as simple as a missing comma somewhere or not a capital letter somewhere. And then you'd have to go back and change it, and then you'd have to wait another 3-4 hours. It was just a crazy time with that. But I mean, as far as growing up, I mean, we were exactly what everybody thinks. I mean, we were go outside when the sun came up and make sure you're back in when the streetlights came on. And growing up on the southeast side of Detroit, Michigan, and we had some fun neighborhood. I guess the best word is rivalries back then. And you grew up and you're riding your bike and you play with all your buddies and you play sports and you play with your big brother and play with your friends, and it was just it was pretty cool time to think about. But no technology, that's for sure.
I'm just thinking about my early childhood. It was kind of like the '90s was actually a great time because you're like in between it all. Everything is kind of, we're getting I would say before technology, it was more like the game systems that were coming to play. We had the PlayStation that was coming in. We were just coming off the Super Nintendo. But like you
Did you have
said,
the did you
we,
have the Adidas that had the one ping that went back and forth, and sometimes that was hockey,
yep, we
sometimes
had
that
that.
was basketball, sometimes it was just
We were playing all kinds of games. We had Probably the most memorable one is a lot of people even to this day who know about the Smash Bros. The Super Mario Brothers, Yoshi's Island, all that stuff, Donkey Kong. That's the stuff we
Yeah.
were growing up on before
Yeah.
it started getting really into it. And then once PlayStation came around, Resident Evil kicked in. Wrestling was at its, the high point, I would say. So
Hulk Hogan.
everybody in the neighborhood was like, had if you had a trampoline, it was backyard wrestling. Everybody had the belts and all that stuff. It was good times. We were playing sports. We would be anywhere from sunup to sundown. And you asked in that time, how did your mom get a hold of you back then? Because if you didn't have cell phones, well, during that time period, we were usually in the neighborhood, and they would yell. They'd be like, "Christopher, get your butt home! Supper time!" And
Yeah.
if we didn't get home when them street lights came on, and we're out there, you
You,
never wanted to be grounded.
you knew that was the rule. You knew that was the rule. We grew up with playing like street hockey and basketball in the driveways and all that kind of stuff. And so it was a cool neighborhood in that, street lights were coming on. If it wasn't my mom screaming, it was the neighbor screaming, guys, get home. You guys go home. You guys, lights are on. You guys got to get home. Okay, cool.
Gotta get home, man! Gotta get home, man!
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And during them time, you did not want to be stuck in a house because if you're grounded, that means you got to do the chores. You got to clean the house top to bottom, and if it's not perfect, man, you're gonna be you'll hear about it.
Yeah. 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 Did you have a lot of chores you had to do anyways? Like my mom always made Saturdays were chore days.
My mom would actually, before she went to work, she would. You probably see like stuff on Facebook now where she would take an old envelope, mail, and then she'd be like, "Okay, this is your chores, Christopher," and then my other three sisters, they would have their chores and everything. And that's what she would do. She would take old envelopes, old, stuff that was mailed, and just use the back of them and write on there, "This is what's got to be done. If it's not done by the time I get home from work, you're grounded. You're grounded."
Yeah. We had every Saturday chores, whether cleaning the house or doing whatever it was. It was Saturday morning that you knew you were going to wake up and you had some chores to do, and you weren't able to do anything until all your chores were done.
To me, though, as the only boy in the family, because I had three sisters, so I was kind of blessed. All I had to do was the outside job. I didn't have to do the inside. I was just, you got to cut the grass, take out the trash. That was it. That was my chores.
Yeah.
That was it. Cut the
How
grass.
does how does that equate now, being married and all?
Oh, it works out perfectly. I mean, as I got older, though, I began to pretty much take on all the chores, like do the laundry, clean wash
Right.
dishes, just clean
Right.
the house top to bottom. Because it developed into who, I was. And
Sure.
then as I got older, that's just who I was. Got into jobs where cleaning was a big responsibility. You want to take care of everything around you. I can't it kind of bugs me if I see something like just sitting around for like a cobweb or something. I gotta get
Yeah.
this, man. I gotta
Yeah. You
clean
gotta.
this up. And
Yeah.
I'm kind of glad that I'm like that just because, I can't sit around and see something dirty.
Yeah. The home is your castle, right?
hmm You want to
Tell
take
my boys when
good
they,
care
because
of it.
my boys are my baby boys are 23. They live together down in Kentucky, and I'm truly blessed with what they're doing. But I always tell them, you got to make sure your house is clean for two people. I mean, number one, make sure it shows that Jesus lives there. And number two, make sure the bathroom's clean enough for your mom to sit down. Those are the two things you got to make sure your house is.
Preach, man. Preach. Because you got to put it like that, man. If Jesus is gonna show up to your house tomorrow, or if
You
he's
better
gonna
be
show up
ready.
today, are you ready? Or is he gonna come
Yeah,
home to a filthy house?
absolutely, absolutely.
You're gonna have him over for supper, and you're gonna see clothes sitting everywhere.
That's right.
For anybody
Yeah.
that's watching right now, now's your time. Now's your
He's watching.
time.
He's watching us.
You better clean it. It ain't gonna clean itself. You better get to it.
Yeah, spot on.
All right, so going a little further into get past a little bit of the childhood as we got into high
Yeah.
school. Tell me a little bit more of what that was like.
Well, my high school years, and by high school I mean from probably seventh grade on through 12th, um, I was pretty focused on playing football. That was my thing. I knew I was going to play football no matter what. No, I was motivated. I had a plan. Uh, that's what I focused. People used to laugh. Everything I did was focused on football. All right, I'd carry a tennis ball through the hallway. I'd be bouncing it off the halls, making sure my eye-hand coordination was good. Everything I ate was meant to get me bigger and faster and stronger. And I was just focused on doing that. Uh, I mean, by the time I hit high school, football was the only sport I was playing. I was lifting in the off season, and that's really what I was focusing on. So, um, had a great group of friends. We had, I mean, a lot of athletes in our class, but we had a good times. And once high school was, I mean, I wasn't a smart kid. I was a football player. Let's get that. Jokes is, and after I graduated, well, there's a story there, but I mean, after I graduated, I went back. I think it was my 10-year reunion, and I told people I was teaching like anatomy, phys, and human nutrition and biology in college, and they were like, "You're teaching in college?" They said, "D, we didn't even know you knew how to read." I go, I know things changed. I know. I wasn't. I was pretty sure I passed a lot of high school classes because I scored touchdowns, but other than that, I didn't. I wasn't real strong in high school, but
Well,
it got me to
like you said,
college.
your focus was football.
Yeah.
You're committed to be the NFL star. I mean, I knew a lot of guys like that. I was like that myself. I played football in high school. I was the littlest guy on the team because I was like 5'3", but with pads it made me about 4'6". And being that I was a quick little guy, they decided to say, "Okay, you're a short little guy. We're gonna make you a nose tackle. So you're gonna go up against the 300-pound guys, and I'm only about shoot." At the time, I was pushing probably about 150, 160, and these guys are monsters. But luckily, I had that confidence, and I just knew that Christ was with me always,
You had the
having
heart, man.
that strong faith, man. So when we got out there and the big boys were ready to eat me alive, I, I would get in the bear crawl position and just shoot through the gaps that were in that line. And because I was too quick, and being that I was a little guy, I could just sneak right through them. And then also having the speed. So when we ever had like a scrambling quarterback that just wanted to run all over the defense, I was always there. I was always in the backfield,
You're nipping at their ankles.
coming right at them. I was like, call them and make that mistake, throw a bad pass. But man, it was good times.
Good
At
memories.
one
Yeah.
time, I felt the same way where I was ready to commit. I wanted to be I wanted to be that NFL star. I wanted to make it to the pros, but
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess towards my senior year, it just kind of changed for me. I wasn't really into it anymore. I was like, oh, I'm not really into, that's not my dream no more.
Yeah.
Just because just started traveling kind of changed it for me. And I was saying it before we got on the show, where I just appreciate just writing about everything. I just fell in love with writing, just talking about stuff and just making it into stories. It's stuff that I was living through, going through, and just experiencing stuff on the road. Just really kind of just built my interest and just I wanted to see more of the world. And I
That's so
was like,
cool.
I don't want to. I mean, what else could I do besides playing sports? Because I'd seen guys get hurt, and I seen them get taken out. I was like,
Yeah.
to the point where guys were getting like I seen a guy get paralyzed, and it scared me a
Yeah.
little bit because I was a smaller guy, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh man, I don't want to be in that position where I'm stuck staring at a ceiling all day.
Yeah. 5 knee surgeries, tore both Achilles, and a torn bicep. So, yeah, it's been a lot. Hey, but I'm curious. You said in high school that you knew back then that Christ was on your side.
Yes, I've always,
What happened there? That's a pretty big. That's a bold statement.
I've always had that. My parents always kind of told me, they never forced religion on us. They told me that there's a God, there's a devil. You can make the decision from there. They never forced us to go to church or anything like that. But I kind of, I went with it. And for the longest time, my relationship with God was, Lord, allow me to be the best football player I could ever be. That was the only prayer I would ever
That's
ask.
all you want. Just
Let
let me
me
be the star this week.
allow me to be the best football player that I could ever be.
Yeah.
Allow me to do the best. But as I got more into, I would say my like sophomore year, that's where kind of like where my relationship with Christ just became more real. And I would find myself, as crazy as it sounds, I would be I would go to church after mass or something after school, and I would sit there for an hour, just kind of sitting in the presence, just sitting there, having that one-on-one with God. And that's really where it started for me. It's just I felt at home. I felt that connection,
Wow.
that love.
Did you ever consider the seminary?
Hmm?
Did you ever consider the seminary?
Yeah, I thought about it from time to
Did you?
time, but I was like, I would even ask God. I was like, if that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. But he was like, I got something better for you.
Yeah.
And it was
That's
like, okay, so you don't want me to be not a pastor yet, maybe later in life. But he's like, no, I got you a partner in crime. She's not here yet, but eventually, you guys are gonna meet down the line. I was like, okay, okay. But I was like, God, just don't ever leave my side. And he's like, I'll never leave your side.
that is so cool that you realize that at such a young age. Nowadays, I feel like a lot of kids, once they reach that high school age, I mean, we lose them. We have them for PSR, we have them for, all that kind of stuff. But once they reach high school, when we lose them until they're out of college.
I think the biggest thing for a lot of people, and especially younger people, is this is why God hates sin, is because we once we commit a sin or do something wrong, we feel deep down in our hearts that God doesn't want nothing to do with us no more. God turns away from us. But in reality, it's actually the opposite. Sin becomes our distraction, it becomes the wall, and it makes us believe that God doesn't care about us. But all along, it's really us that let go of God's hand. And God's always right there saying, come on, I got more to show for you. It's okay, you messed up, but he wipes it off for you. It's like, it's okay. You're forgiven. I still love you. Keep following me. He's got his arms open wide, but yet it's that distraction by sin that we're turning the other way. Like, no, you don't care about me, Lord. I messed up. I'm wrong.
And we know who's creating that doubt in our heads, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would tell everybody, man, if you don't feel his presence in your life, it's not because he moved away, it's because you moved away, and all you got to do is move closer. He's there.
And then, how often we find ourselves in that position where we get to the point where, we get distracted from sin, making that wrong mistake. And how many times have we made that same mistake over and over again? Go back and go back. But the awesome thing about it, whereas watching the awesome thing about Christ is he always forgives us. He knew that we were going to mess up way before we even existed. He knew about us before we existed. Think about that for a
Yeah.
minute. It sounds
Pretty
crazy, but
amazing.
it's the truth.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
And he's always right there waiting for you to just come on back because he's got so much in store for you. Jeremiah 29:11. I had plans for you to
I
prosper
love
you.
it. I love it. Keep preaching. I love it. You got to turn the channel onto a Christian channel.
You're on it, man. You're on it.
Oh, he is good. He is good.
I was watching right now. I just want to. Is this if that touched you at all? I mean, this is your sign that God's waiting for you. He wants to connect with you. Make it happen. Don't be afraid.
That's right. And there are people out there. There are people out there that feel the same way. Whoever's listening, there are people that feel the same way. Don't be ashamed of your faith. There's people out there that will stand behind you. Right? I mean, we're here. Reach out to any of us. We'll be happy to share the ride with you.
Yep. And he always forgives you. Remember that. He always forgives you. And he's always right there with his hands out.
That's right. That's
Come,
absolutely right.
come
That's
back.
absolutely
All right, before we get too deep in the church,
right.
before we get too deep into
We
it,
could.
let's go back into your story. So after high school, did you said you wanted to be in the NFL? That was your goal. So as you got into college, what was going on?
I went to college to play football. I didn't go there for classes. I went there to play football. And so, like I said, I wasn't very good academically. Um, I this is where the God intervention comes, because I was at spring practice, we are going through our drills, and it had been a really rough week. Me and the defensive end were just going hard at each other. I could barely move my neck. I still remember like it was yesterday. I could barely move my neck. We were going through some drills. I planted and my knee tore. And I'm sitting back on the turf and I just feel all this sweat going in my eyes. And it's just, oh. and I'm feeling the heat, and I'm just going, I don't know why I'm out here anymore. Like, I'm not supposed to be here. This is my third, at that time, it was my fourth knee surgery. And I kind of felt like, okay, maybe that's him telling me I'm not supposed to be here. But I was like a really mean football player. I put the helmet on. I wanted to destroy you. I was mean. Like, I would do whatever if I had stories. Um, but I was laying on the turf, and I just remember looking up going, that's it. It's done. And every pressure I felt, like it was just I just felt myself, all the aggression just leave me. And they came out, of course, they got me to the hospital, and I never even went back to the field. I never cleaned out my locker or nothing. It was done. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to. And like I said, I rehabbed, and um, it was after that injury, I was like, I got to get my act together. The NFL isn't my route. I can't do this. I actually have to start learning something. And at the time, like I didn't do. I mean, they had computer science, and I had to drop out of computer science because of my professor. How dare he? He was telling me, look, if you want to get a hold of me, there's this thing called email, and this is the way email works. And I'm like, what? What is email? And I couldn't even figure out how to do stinking email. So instead of manning up and talking to the professor about it, I just everything kept snowballing and snowballing, and I couldn't do anything. And so finally, I'm like, I can't handle it. My GPA is nothing. It was literally close to nothing. Um, I felt like I had to do something. I got to change. I got to do something. So I was talking with another football friend of mine, and like, dude, what are you majoring in? Like, what are you gonna do? And he was talking to me about this sports management major, and how you could do all this stuff with the body and stuff. I'm like, oh, I do like the way the body works. So luckily, I got back into that, and I took all my anatomy phys and all my bios and all that kind of stuff, and got my degree in sports management, and really turned it around. Graduate, did my internship and worked down in Miami, Florida, at Doctor's Hospital doing cardiac and pulmonary rehab. Absolutely loved that. First time they invited me into the OR, and we opened up a body, and I'm like, dude, that is so cool. Like, I don't even know what the guy does for a living on the table right now, but all I know is that if that pumper doesn't work, then we're all done.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care. I don't care what you do in life. It doesn't matter. I just know that we got to make sure that heart is right. We got to make sure that heart's healthy. And it was just cool to me that no matter what system, like I had plenty of broken bones and ligaments, and those could always be repaired. But I feel like the most interesting system to me is the cardiac system. When you talk about the heart, and if the heart isn't working right, you're done. I mean, essentially. So it's just fascinating. So I got out of there, and I went ahead and got my master's in exercise phys, and kind of moved around. I really wanted to stay down in Miami, but my wife and I were just dating back then. And then we kind of got talking. We want to get a little more serious. And she's like, well, I don't want to end up that far south. And I'm like, oh, where do you want to end up? So I knew of this hospital down off the coast of South Carolina, and I called them. Luckily enough, they were like, yeah, come work here. I said, okay, cool. So I called my wife, like, hey, I got this new opportunity. It's down south. Oh, I don't think I went in that far south. Like, wait, what south are you thinking? She said, oh, about Cleveland. Like, Cleveland isn't really south of Bowling Green, but yeah, okay. And her family's here, and it couldn't have been a better decision. So I came here, I did a whole bunch of stuff. I tried to do cardiac and pulmonary rehab. I was running some YMCA's. I was worked for Progressive Insurance, running their corporate fitness centers. Worked for Medical Mutual Ohio, doing their health promotions. We go out to companies, and we try to do their like the employee wellness for their companies, and did all that. And then finally decided I could do it on my own. So I tried my own wellness company for a couple of years. And I'd go out to different companies, and I'd do screenings, and I would do health talks, lunchtime brown bag talks, and all that kind of stuff, and try to do that. But it was a ton of work. And at the time we started wanting to have some kids, and I'm like, I got to do something. I got to find something I can do that's on my kid's schedule. And just, he's good, right? I mean, God is good. I'm looking at the paper back in the day when they had newspapers. There was a big old ad for Cleveland Public Schools, and they said, hey, if you have a science background, we need science teachers. We'll get you your teaching license. We just need you to have your science background. So one thing turned to another, and 22 years ago, I got into teaching. So I was blessed. I was able to teach bio. I was able to teach anatomy, physiology. I taught all the sciences. I taught all the biomedical programs, and got my kids mentors and job shadows and all that kind of stuff. I was blessed along the way. I was able to coach. I coached soccer for 20 years. I coached basketball. I coached track, and so I had a lot of great experience. A lot of great kids. I mean, I
Hold on,
talk all the time.
wait. Pause. You said you coached soccer for 20 years? Not
Yeah,
football? Wait a
that's a
minute. What?
that's hilarious because, of course, I grew up playing American football, but my neighbor was coaching my daughter. And at the time, she was just little, and I went to her practice, and he was just having a blast. She was having a blast, and I'm like, man, I could coach soccer. It's like a phys ed class. I'm sure I could coach soccer. So when my boys got a little bit older to start playing, I don't know how old, like 5 or 6 when they started playing, whatever it is, I volunteered to coach. And it was a blast. We had such a blast with them. And that happened, that lasted for probably 2 or 3 years, but then they started getting really good. I'm like, I don't know anything about soccer. I better go to a coaching school so I can figure this out. So I'd go to a coaching school and I'd be, okay, I got this. And then that would last for a couple of years. And I'd be like, oh, I got to go to another coaching school because now they're getting better. So I went, I mean, that's the way it progressed all the way up when they were through high school. It's like, I just kept going to coaching schools and coaching schools. And before you knew it, I was a head coach. So
Hmm.
uh, I absolutely, we had so many good times. Our playing, I mean, we played in our, our season consisted of like uh, Wisconsin. It consisted of St. Louis, consisted of Florida. I mean, we were traveling all over the country with these guys, and we were having a blast. I would coach the kids and have them during the day, but then my wife would have them during night, and she would have all the. It was like mini vacations, right? She would do all the nighttime stuff, and it was just a complete. And I mean, those kids are 23 now, and I still stay in touch with all those kids, and they all call, "Hey, coach, what's going on?" And I see them, and they're always visiting with my kids, and it's a blast. I mean, we had some good times.
And I just think that's what's more incredible about coaching is it's not really touched on, but that relationship you develop with the players and just the
Yeah.
families all together. And before you, like you said, before you know it, man, these kids they actually become your own family.
100%. I still have a kid here that I have 3 biological kids, but we always call him our fourth child. He's the boys' best friend, and Smitty is just I mean, we go on family vacations with them, and it's my kids, Dubois, Smith, and it's him, Smith, Dubois. So I mean, it was just we're always his mom was with us during all our vacations, and it's incredible.
And then on top of that, you're traveling all over the place, going to different. I mean, that's what I loved most about sports. I touched on it a little bit, but you got to see a lot of different. That's what was awesome about sports. You just got to see all these different areas.
Oh yeah.
You get to leave your,
I
your
tell
area, all these different hometowns, and people that
yeah,
call
and I
can't call home. It's like, hey, welcome back from the commercial break. Before we got taken off the air for a minute to pay for this podcast, the ads, we were beginning to talk on Pete, but coaching and just what it's like, kind of just developing that family. You teach all these kids, you said you're 20 years doing it and just developing, growing a family out of it.
yeah. Yeah, and I tell everybody, I was so blessed to be able to participate, in D1 sports, and I love my time there. But man, there's absolutely nothing better than seeing your kids compete and do their best, and just seeing them with the life struggles. I mean, sports teaches so much. But I just think it's so cool. I loved my sports, but I love my kids' sports even more.
Let's touch on that a little bit. I mean, being in the sport yourself, you're playing football, and you know what it's like just being out there firsthand, being in the
Yes.
game and dealing with stuff. So, did that help you a lot when it came to teaching your children how to handle certain situations? How do I even put it? They got into
Oh, oh, oh yeah, because it's all those life lessons, right? I mean,
yeah.
even my daughter, my daughter was an athlete too. I mean, she graduated high school with 9 varsity letters, um, and then ended up joining the Air Force of all things. And she just got out a couple months ago. But yeah, I think it just it's easy when life is good, right? But how do you handle it when life doesn't go your way? And whether it's sitting on the bench or failing a test, there's still life lessons to be learned. And then the I'm all about all those about you fall 6 times, get up seven, and every great journey starts with the first step. And I'm all about that. I love my Eric Thomas as my dude. I love listening to Eric Thomas talk, and um, I'm all about that. So I think my kids would tell you probably I brought that same attitude to them. My daughter, this is hilarious, when she was in 8th, maybe ninth grade, somewhere right around there. She came to me and she said, "Dad, I think I'm going to try out for the basketball team." Basketball? First of all, you're 5'2". Second of all, I didn't even know you knew what basketball was. She'd never played basketball. Now, the boys and I were in the driveway playing basketball all the time, but she never. And I looked at her and I said, well, "We better go in the driveway. We better start practicing. When's your tryouts?" She said, "In 2 days." I said, "Okay, well, we got some work to do. Let's see what we can do." So, yeah, I mean, that's just the kind of girl she was. I mean, from basketball tryouts to triathlons, Tough Mudders to just whatever she set her mind to, she decided just to do it. And all we could do is support her and say, "Look, if you're going to do it, let's make sure you're prepared for it." So,
Now, because you said you listen to Eric Thomas. Now, were you
yeah,
like
I
put
love it.
posters around saying "I can, I will, I must"
That's
in
right.
those 2 days? I can, I
Right.
will, I must.
That's right. Just shut up and let's do it. Don't talk about it. Be about
Yeah, get in there and do it, man. You
it.
got 2 days to do it. You can, you will, and you
That's
must.
right. That's right. You're going to be the beast, but you're going to have to do what the beast does.
You got to get in there and do it. Now, just in case anybody's wondering, did she make the basketball team?
Unfortunately, no. But the coach came to us and the coach said she was by far the most likable on the team. I so wanted to put her on the team. And if she wants to be the team manager, she could. We would let her anytime because but she just doesn't know basketball. And I'm like, well, that's fair. I get that. So she tried out and played CYO that year. And she played CYO basketball. Well, she was a beast on defense because she was just so athletic.
Mhm.
Couldn't shoot a basketball if she was sitting next to the rim, but defensively she was a beast. And gosh, I was at like one of the first CYO basketball games, and my daughter was having a heck of a defensive game, stealing the ball all the time. And this one mom, I mean, she's probably 5 feet from me, starts yelling at her daughter, "Hey, watch out for that Chihuahua. She's going to get the ball all the time." And I said, "Wait, that what? Did she just call my daughter a Chihuahua?" No, I know she didn't do that. And then she said it again. I'm like, "Oh, this is CYO. What are you doing?" So I walked up to her and sat down next to her, and she kind of looks at me. I said, "Man, I got a secret to tell you." I said, "That Chihuahua is my daughter. And if you don't have anything nice to say about her, I would suggest you say something nice about your own daughter, but don't talk about my daughter." And she looked at me, and then she gets up and she leaves the gym. Like, wait, you didn't have anything nice to say about your own daughter? That's sad.
Dang.
Sometimes parents ruin kids' sports.
Yeah, I mean, you get too competitive, and I've read about that, heard about it a lot. Is like because they wanted to make the pros so bad that they kind of tried to force it on their kids, and that's what
Yeah,
ruins it for the kids.
yeah. Well, most parents in high school think their kids are going to make it to that next level, and with the top 1% of the one percenters make it to the college of any rank. I mean, that's D1 to 3, D3. Not too many kids make it to college athletics. So
But the biggest thing though, when it comes to, I mean, kids that are in school right now that are wanting to make it to the next level is you got to train. You got to keep pushing and train, train, train. Get some people that are going to help you and try to get you to the next level. Because I wish
yeah,
I had this advice when I was in high school to train.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Maybe things would have been different. Maybe I would have continued to play because I wasn't
yeah,
really as committed at things as I am now. Because in high
yeah,
school, you don't have that same mindset.
yeah.
So if you my advice for you is if you want to make it to the pros, train like a pro. Get out there and do what you have to do.
You know that Eric Thomas saying about if you want to be a beast, then you got to do what beasts do. Um, my one of the kids on my team, when he wasn't playing, he didn't play high school soccer. He played actually academy soccer, and his team was the Columbus Crew. So he practiced in Columbus. He lived in Olmsted Falls, but he practiced in Columbus. My boys thought they wanted that, so we tried that for 6 months. Twice a week, we drove to Columbus for practice. Oy. And it only took us like 6 months, and the boys were like, Dad, we can't do this. I go, I get it. I'm only going to do it because you wanted to. If you don't want to do it, I'm out, and that's cool with me. Um, but that same kid that did that for his whole high school career is now playing professional soccer.
Yeah, because that's the
I mean,
commitment we need.
that's the commitment that it takes. Yeah, absolutely. Now, some kids don't have to. Some kids are more blessed, and they may not have to go that route. But most kids, it takes that kind of mentality and that kind of motivation and that kind of spirit to go after it. I mean, if you find something that you love, then you put your whole heart into it and go after it.
And like when you're training, especially, and you guys are so blessed with having it at the source of your fingers. You usually go on YouTube and listen to Eric Thomas, listen to David Goggins, listen to Les Brown.
Yeah,
Listen to
yeah,
some awesome names, man. Listen
yeah,
to them as you're training, because I mean, if you need somebody to coach and pump you up, or you just need that
yeah,
motivation altogether, that's who I rely on the most.
yeah. It's funny when I taught, I used to do a motivational Monday, and I would do a little 4 or 5 minute clip of one of those type videos, and the kids would have all week to listen to it, and then by Friday they'd have to respond to it. And they'll be, why are we doing that? I said, because at some day down the road, one of these videos are going to click in your head.
Yeah,
All I'm doing is planting the seeds. You're going to hear this voice again at some point.
you're gonna feel it in your heart. You're gonna be like, oh, I see what he was doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether it's medicine or sports, I mean, you have to go after it. There's no denying it. Find what your passion is and go after it. It's there for the taking, but you got to go after and get it.
Another thing that can also help you too is if you're around a lot of negative people that are not really helping you or support you, get into
Yeah,
self-help reading. Read a lot of positive, uplifting books. Fill your
yeah,
mind with the right stuff, the right material.
yeah,
And probably a best book I could like throw out to, whoever's interested, I would say The Power of Positive Thinking by Norman Vincent Peale. That would be a great start, great read. You
yeah,
can learn a lot of techniques in there. I mean, Christian based too. It will help you.
yeah,
So if you need help with your prayer life, you're trying to get more into it, that's a good book to read.
yeah. And it's a hard challenge to make. But I would say if you're hanging around, we know this, right? The birds of a feather flock together. Um, if you're hanging around negative people and you know they're negative, they're not building you up and you're not building them up, and there's chitty chatty against each other all the time, you got to change your circle. It's hard to do, but you got to change. You can't live in that and expect great things.
Nope. You
So,
are
yeah,
who you hang around with.
yeah, yeah. You want to see someone succeed? Look at their friends,
Yep.
because their friends tell you a lot who they are.
And if you're in that position right now where you're just finding yourself stuck and you're wondering why can't I get nothing different in my life? Why can't I change it? Look around you. You make
Yeah.
the decision.
What is it? If you want something different, you got to be willing to do something different.
You gotta step out of the comfort zone.
That's
You
right.
never want
That's
to
right.
you never want to be comfortable. You never want to be comfortable.
Amen.
But all right, let's get back into your so there we are. We're finishing up college, starting to get into your
Yeah.
career.
Yeah. So I graduated, and then I went to work. I said I did a couple of things, and I went into education for 21 years. And in that time, you know, I think one of the things that just hit me hard is my first school that I taught in. Um, I was teaching science, and uh, the first week or so, you're just trying to get to know the kids and trying to build that rapport and build that relationship with kids. And I just remember I had one student. She was, I think this was in eighth grade, getting to know her a little bit. And she shared with me that she had a kid at home in eighth grade.
in 8th grade.
And I'm like, how in the world can I teach a kid who's still trying to figure out how to handle home?
Yeah,
There's no way at eighth grade you're ready to handle a kid. How do you walk through the day trying to learn when that's the case? And it just hit me hard at that time. And then, you realize most of these problems that these kids have, they aren't their problems. They're in bad situations, but they didn't propagate any of these problems, just maybe a bad decision here and there, but it's just they need help out of those problems. And that's where it kind of started. And as a teacher, I'm a teacher, my wife's a teacher, I got my mother-in-law was a teacher, my aunt and uncle are both we were all teachers. And I think teachers are they're just givers, right? I mean, that's kind of what we do. And so you realize, what can I do as a teacher to help? Not with having any kind of special certifications. I treated my students like I treated my kids. Like what would I hope someone would do for my kid is what I did for my students. Like, what do you need? How can I help you? Do you need later in my career? I mean, do you need to see what a radiologist does? Well, then good. Let me get you in touch with a radiologist, and I'll put you in the ER, or at least the radiology department, and you'll be able to see what they do. Um, what do you have a problem? I mean, whatever the problem is, you try and do what you can to solve it. When I went to my second school, um, the other teachers and we were faced with a really challenge. We had this class coming up, and we were told that they were the worst of the worst. And so I took the science. I had some other, I mean, a buddy of mine took the math, another buddy took the social studies. And we went to the principal and we said, tell you what, we want 25 of the worst kids coming up. Give us the worst of the worst. You say these kids are bad, give us the worst of the worst. And we created a program called the Academy. And we gave these kids everything from motivation to rewards to counseling to, if one of us noticed one of the kids was slipping, we'd call him in for a meeting every week, and he'd meet with all of us. Hey, I know you're having a problem with English, but you're meeting with all of us, so we all know we're on the same page, and that when you leave here, we know exactly what was said. So we're going to hold you accountable to make sure that you actually, I mean, it was that kind of cohesive approach. And we took them from, like, I'm not kidding, Chris. I mean, I think they came in with like a 0.6 overall GPA. And then we took them up to like I think the final one was like a 2.4 GPA. But that was only because we took so much time and so much motivation. You just realize, man, with the right motivation, kids can do something. They just, like I said, they're in problems that aren't theirs, and they don't have the skill set yet to realize how to get out of it. So that just dwindled. I mean, that just festered in me, right? Then, gosh, about 14 years ago, my wife, she was teaching at our church, and she had to go through this Virtus training and for the teachers there. And well, she heard some pretty sad stats, and she left that meeting. And I mean, actually, she's one you need to probably talk to as well. But consequently, coming out of that meeting, that training, she created a nonprofit, and it's now called Educate to Protect. And what she does is she goes into schools and she teaches kids how to prevent child molestation. Horrific, absolutely horrific. You should never have to teach kids about that, but it happens, and it happens way too frequently. And so she's now in about 100 schools, maybe a little over. And she just went through a huge rebranding. And I mean, it's an incredible program that's doing phenomenal stuff. And I mean, I certainly put you in touch with her because I think her word needs to get out as well. I mean, It's amazing what she has done. But that started about 14 years ago. And, when she started to get into it and we started learning about all the stats and the prevalency of that, we got to do something. We just got to do something to make a difference, because if we want our kids, I mean, our kids are our best resource, right? I mean, I always told my kids, my students, I always said, look, I got to make sure you learn all this stuff, because someday I'm going to be your patient. I don't want you looking into a book trying to figure out what's wrong with me. I want you to know that. And yes, it's going to be hard. And I said, you're going to come to me within the first month and you're going to be all pissed off and crying because this class is so hard. And I'll be like, yeah, it's hard. Absolutely. And after I get done laughing at you, I'm going to help you, because yes, it's hard. Anything worthwhile is going to be hard. You're going to have to go for it. And either you're going to go for it and I'm going to help you, or you're going to drop out. And if you drop out, there's no shame in that. You just realize this wasn't your path. But if you're going to come on that path, then believe me, I'm going to give you so many resources to help you. There's no way you're going to fail. I won't let you fail. On my watch, you're going to succeed, but it's going to take some work. But that's okay. That's okay. Work is not a bad word. We're just going to have to go through it. So 14 years ago, she started off as, started out with, well, back then it was reinventing the cycle. She's since changed it to educate to protect. And that just kind of festered. As you're going through school as an educator, you're still seeing a lot of these problems these kids are bringing to the table, and it's just not their problems and they just need help with it. So that's what's kind of got me into being the mental health coach. I mean, if you look at some of the problems these kids are facing, I mean, my background sports. I mean, I advocate for sport, but even if it's not sports, I mean, I had students that would go to school and then after school they'd go to work, and they work till 11 o'clock at night. I mean, if you're getting up and you're going to school by 7 and you're working till 11, how's that give you any time to do anything?
Yeah.
I had some students that had to work right after school, and they'd come home and their parent, whichever parent was at home, I'm thinking of a particular one that their mom works second shift. So they come home from school, they go to work, they come home, and they don't even have anybody at the house. So then the older kid would have to take care of the younger kid. And like, that's not a situation you should be in.
Mhm.
So, and then you add that, like, how do I succeed when I have to work? And they're not working so that they can have ice cream and a hamburger. They're working because they need to pay the heat in the house.
Mhm.
They're working because they need to pay the bills of the house. My goodness, that's a lot of stress for a kid to have. How do we help them? How do we really help them? So that's kind of what thrusted me even deeper into all this stuff.
And then the only thing I could really think about is I heard that song just playing over in my head. Is sometimes you got to go through hell just to get a little bit of heaven.
I love the way you pull it all the way back to theology. You're awesome, man.
I hear it. I hear it for you.
Yeah, you do. And if you have the faith, you have the hope, he's got your back, it's going to be okay. But you tell an 8th grade girl who's got a kid at home, hey, it's going to be okay. How's it going to be okay? Well, I'm not sure, but we're going to work this out. Or you tell that athlete who has to come to school at 7 in the morning and go to practice till 5, then go to work till 11 to pay it's going to work out. We're going to get you there.
So even in that situation, I keep hearing deep down. I know we're all busy on life, but in these situations where you hear that call for help, you hear from a young child saying that, basically that's what she's saying. I need help. But how do you do it? And all you can really do in that situation is kind of just extend a hand out and say, if you need anybody, I'm here. But
Yeah.
a lot of people are not willing to do that because they're too busy with their own lives. But if, like you said, as a teacher, you're ready to make that step, to take that step to help and do what you can to better
Yeah.
the next generation.
I think as a human, that's what we're called for. Right? As humans, we're here to help each other. And we have to use our resources to help others. And the more resources you get, the more responsibility you have to help others.
And that's
People
what
don't
Christ
get that.
wanted all along.
Yeah, that's what we can do. But some people, I mean, I laugh because I tell everybody, some people are so poor, all they have is money. And if you have more than that, that's why your faith is so important, man. My wife carries these bags in her truck, and they have like protein bars and blankets and waters. And so if you go on and you see something, you see a need, you fill it, right? That's the easiest thing we can say is if you see a need, you fill it. And whatever that is, that's what we're called to do, man.
So in those situations, kind of dig a little bit deeper into it.
Yeah,
What did you do to help it?
whatever you can. Like you said, sometimes all they need is a shoulder to listen and a shoulder to reassure and some wisdom to pass on to share some faith if they're into it. Um, sometimes it's just listening. Sometimes you got to pull some resources in, and maybe you go as a coach and as a teacher, you have a lot of community resources. If you're doing your job right, you're making friends with them. I mean, my uncle was a coach for 35 years, and there's not a person on this planet he claims he doesn't know.
Now that
So
would be
something,
my next question for you. Is that what
what's that?
helped? Is that what helped inspire you to become a mental health coach?
What's that? Like being able to help kids?
Yeah.
Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, and I feel like, you know, those situations that I talked about earlier they're all things that kids really don't have control of, right? And then all of a sudden you throw a pandemic into their world. You see the perfect storm coming. And it's the consequences of that perfect storm. And it's not just the isolation that the kids got, it's the ineptness, the inability to learn common skills that you want to take for granted. It's the inability to persevere through hard times. And I don't know where that was lost. I just know that it was lost in the last, I don't know, what do you think, last 3-4 years? And it's a message that needs to get to these kids that, like you said, there's going to be hard times. We all face hard times. But the question is, how do you handle it? Because we can all mope and complain about it, or we can put on our armor and go fight.
And I think
And
really in this time,
I grew up in an amazing house. My older brother and I had two amazing parents, a Jewish mom and a Methodist dad who always took time to show us and teach us and be a part of our lives. My dad was my coach. My mom was my biggest cheerleader. And, they gave us absolutely everything that two kids could actually want or need growing up. Family vacations down to Florida. My dad served in the Navy, and he's from Mississippi, and my mom was from Columbus. And my grandparents, one set being in California, the other set being in Florida, truly loved us as
I was
well.
gonna say, so going into COVID, can't believe that was already 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago. But
Yeah,
it kind
yeah,
of it kind of pushed us all. We were kind of heading in that direction beforehand, but it kind of pushed us kind of away from each other. And we're
yeah,
not. It's Pink Floyd said it best at one time: "United we stand, divided we fall." And that's really what we need more than ever right now, is become united again and get closer to each other again. Because in this time, I know it's pre-COVID and it's still out there to this day, but we
yeah,
need to reunite with everybody and get that relationship, that connection again, and
yeah.
stop being so. I mean, they're trying to do it with technology. They're trying to get us close and whatnot, but we need more connection again.
Everyone's pointing the fingers at everything,
Hmm.
and stop pointing the fingers and just find the commonality.
And I mean, that's what we need more than ever right now.
Yeah,
I don't know how to put it into words, but it's like if you see somebody struggling, I mean, you and your wife are doing very awesome with it. Like you said, she has it in her trunk, a couple bags, like, because you come across so many people that are struggling right now, especially when inflation going on and prices are raising up everywhere. People need help, and if you have it, it's written in the Bible that if you have it, your neighbor asks for your shoes or a shirt off your back, give them your jacket as well. Do that,
yeah,
help
that's
out,
right.
help your neighbor.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're supposed to do. Yeah,
If we can do that, get back to those terms where we're working together and becoming one, I mean, the world will change for the better. You guys are all
yeah,
looking for, you want some positive in the world, be the positive that you want to see.
yeah. And we know, I mean, mental health affects adults too. I know that. I mean, there's a lot of adults that are trying to figure out what's going on too right now. But you know, with the kids, high school kids and maybe middle school kids. They don't have, number one, they don't have the skill set. They don't have the tools. They don't know where or what. They don't do, what do I do now? This kid made fun of my shoes. So, um, you know, they don't have the skill sets. Number two, a lot of parents aren't teaching their kids the skills they need. A lot of parenting nowadays, they want to be friends and they don't want to be the true parents. I want to be my kid's best friend. Well, it's not what they need. That's for other people. Your job is to grow your kids. And so that's why I'm so interested in the kids and helping them. Not, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like they're the ones that need some more focus than the adults. So
What would you really say is like the best advice that you could give a kid right now that is kind of going through that situation where they're feeling unwanted and they're dealing with a lot in the home. They're your mom, like you said, is working second or third shift, and they're taking care of their little brother and sister, and they're
yeah,
they're at the verge or of their breaking point at a young age.
yeah,
What advice do you have for them?
it's so hard for them, right? Because they don't have the skill sets. They don't know what they should be doing. So the discussions are interesting. Number one, I ask them, what's the goal? What's your life goal? Because I've known a lot of kids. I've been blessed. Like I said, I taught in the inner city schools, and I've met a lot of kids that didn't have a lot of things going for them, but they were focused on their goals. Growing up, as I mentioned, I was one of those. I mean, I had a great parenthood. I had a great life as well, but I was focused on the goals. What is your goal in life? Because regardless of where you're coming from, if you stay focused on that, then we can get you there. And once you know, a lot of kids don't know what their goals are, but what is your goal and how can I help you get there? Once they know someone has their back, once they know someone's going to help, then you can kind of see their shoulders come down. They can relax a little bit. And then their kid's going to come back tomorrow and the next day. And after we figure out what the goals are and we figure out how they look, it's how do you survive a day? Hey, how was yesterday? Well, it was stressful. What made it so stressful? Well, okay, cool. Well, how can we make sure that doesn't happen again? What can we do? Eventually, eventually the discussion goes to, where's your faith? Where are you at in your faith? Because if you don't have any faith, you're going to struggle. But you got to have faith in something. And maybe we need to talk about faith. And I don't know how qualified I am. How you was telling me, and like I said, I'm a faith-based guy, and I know my Bible, but I don't feel like I'm qualified. I don't know. I love the book. I love what it says. I think when more you read, the more you learn, and you can read something a million times and get something different out of it every time.
Preach, preach it
I
up. Preach.
feel like I could. So that kind of discussion goes there, um, and if they're not faithful, then the wisdom that I've gained from that book, you share, right? And a lot of things that we're talking about, you don't have to, hey, according to Matthew, this is what it says. You can just say what it says, and then all of a sudden it sounds like you have some wisdom, and it didn't come from you. It's the Holy Spirit talking through you,
Best believe.
and all of a sudden they're like, man, that D has a lot of wisdom. Well, that next conversation comes, well, that wasn't me talking. What do you mean? It says right here, this is what I'm trying to tell you. And all of a sudden they start getting sucked in. It's okay. Now you have a goal. You know how you're going to reach it. I'm going to help you get your goal. And whatever that goal is, and maybe how to get through the week and maybe how to get to med school. I don't know what it is, but let's figure out what that goal is and let's make it attainable. Let's go after it. But you're going to do it with some faith. And if we got those two things, whoa, I don't care where you're coming from. You're going to wake up and have a good day because he's got your back. So
And what better words to put it is like you're gonna wake up and you're gonna have a good day. Have that mindset too. Just
yeah,
wake up and just say that out loud. Proclaim it. Bring it into your reality, your world. Make it the first thing you say when you wake up and get out of bed.
that's right.
Today is
That's
gonna
right.
be a great. And
Yeah,
believe it. That's important too. Believe, believe, believe. When you say those
yeah,
words, don't just say it and then like, oh yeah, right. Believe it when
right,
you say that. Today
right,
is gonna be
right.
a great day.
Yeah, and that kind of leads into that whole how do you help kids with, we use the term mental health, but I mean, stress management. How do you handle it? Well, look, those things that you just said, you got to do it, and you got to do it now. Oh, I'm not think I'm ready. No, no, you are. You're ready, and you're qualified. You can wake up today and say, thank you. I'm going to have a good day. It's that simple. Let's start with that. And then once you get through that for a couple of days, then we're going to add something else.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you. I got through today, and I woke up today, and today's going to be a good day. And I'm going to go for a little walk today. I'm going to go recognize, I'm going to go look at nature. I'm going to bring that. Okay, cool. Let's try that next. Because whatever great journey you have, like I said, every great journey starts with the first step. So let's make those first steps first. Let's figure out what those are and let's do it.
And talk about a little bit about mental. I would also say when you go on these walks, these adventures, unplug, unplug, leave the phone
Oh,
behind, and just kind of go into the world. I mean, if you're going on a very long, very long walk to the point where
yeah,
you're gonna lose yourself, take the phone, but turn it off.
yeah,
But really, when you're out there, just unplug, man. Take it all in. You know,
mhm,
take it all in and just look around you. And another beautiful way of looking at it is look around you. Look at the buildings. Look at the streetlights. Look at everything. Look at the sidewalks.
yeah,
Those all came from people's minds. That all came from people's minds.
yeah,
What,
yeah, yeah,
and then think to yourself as you're on this walk, what could come out of my mind that could better my world around me? Think about that for a
and appreciate it to being in the moment,
minute.
right? You're there in the moment. Let's soak at that in. You're absolutely 100%.
Yeah. Look at life all around you. There's life everywhere you look. And then for those that don't believe in God, explain that to me. Explain that to me. Where,
Yeah,
how does this all happen around us? And I'm
yeah,
not trying to force religion down your throat because that's your free will. But to me, when you don't believe in something, just the world it doesn't make sense to me. I mean, that's
yeah,
that's how I see it.
yeah,
It's your free will, whoever's watching, to believe whatever you want. But to me, honestly, deep down, I just look around and I see the trees. I see life in the trees. I see grass. That's life. I mean, everybody's in this house. Every house that you see that you walk by, life. There's life in it. The air that you're
yeah,
breathing, I mean, where'd it come from? You're
yeah,
inhaling this. You're able to breathe it in and breathe it out. Explain that. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's just the
yeah,
sunlight that's beating on you. And some days it can be hot, but you're feeling it. You're feeling it on your skin. You're feeling it all around you. Just the
yeah,
feelings. Explain that. Where? How? You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. But to have that mentality where you can stop and look around and realize all that's happening because so many kids are distracted, like you said, they're just so distracted. And I'm gonna go for a walk, but I got so many other things on my mind. Stop.
Yeah. Just
Just
take
go
it
for
all
a
in.
walk. Yeah, it's huge.
And that's why when we first started talking about this topic is I said to unplug, unplug, shut it
Yeah,
off, because that's where the distractions start. There's
yeah,
so many
100%.
TikTok videos out there. There's so much to see on the phone that it can just wait for like an hour. Just take yourself
Absolutely.
off, and I'm telling you,
Absolutely.
your brain itself will feel. It will say thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. I need a break.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely 100%.
And like that's why we're touching on mental health right now, because I believe without a doubt it's kind of being pushed under the carpet, but at the same time it needs to be drug out from underneath the carpet and talked about more, because
Oh yeah.
we have so much information at the source of our fingertips. And there's so many kids that are seeing videos that they don't quite understand, stuff that they shouldn't see until later in life,
If at all.
if at all. Because that's where we're kind of at right now, and it's messing with a lot
Yeah.
of kids mentally because they're not
Yep.
mentally prepared for what they're
Right.
seeing on the screen.
Right.
And I think it needs to be more addressed, to be honest. It needs to be more talked about. Mental health needs to become more of a walkable thing. That it's not. It shouldn't. You shouldn't be ashamed to talk to other people about what's
Absolutely.
going on in your life.
Yeah, Chris, Governor DeWine last week, I think it was either last week or the week before last, just signed into the law. It's an initiative that he wants to get every coach in Ohio trained to recognize mental health awareness. Well, that's awesome, right? 15,000 schools in Ohio, probably at least 10 coaches per school, 150,000 more coaches are going to be able to recognize mental health issues. Well, to me, that's a huge red flag because I've been in the school districts and I know how much time counselors have to help the kids, which is zero. They're already booked. I was talking to one school counselor out of South Carolina, and she was saying that her district had to put it in their contract to guarantee each counselor 5 hours a week of actual counseling time. You're a counselor, and you have to put in your contract to have 5 hours of counseling time. Well, in my eyes, Chris, the problem is we're gonna starting this fall, we're gonna have I think it's actually next year, but we're gonna have 150,000 more coaches with the skill set to recognize mental health. And then what? Where are the resources? Where are the people that are going to be able to be those frontline workers that say a coach recognizes there's 20 kids on his football team that needs help? They're not mentally ill. They're just stressed. They have a lot of workload. Where do they turn to? They can't go to the school counselor because they got to do testing and administrative work and all that kind of stuff. They're trying to change all that kind of. We know the schools don't have the resources for all that identity. So what are they going to do? So that's where I want to step in and say, look, guys, we got you. We can help you because I know your school program doesn't have that they don't have that resource. So that's my goal.
But what's more important is also we need to touch on people that are helping with mental health. They need help as well. They need, I
The
mean,
teachers, you mean?
you're taking on a lot. You're
Yeah,
listening to a lot of people's what's going on in their life. But at the same time, it's draining,
yeah,
and you need that time to recharge. And that's
yeah,
that's why I reconnect to God all the time because
yeah.
you got to turn to something, man.
Well,
Because
and that's talk about mental health and what can you do? It doesn't matter who you are. If it's you and me, it's a 12th grader, it's a teacher. It doesn't. What can you do? Well, the worst thing you can do is just kind of sweep it under the rug, right? You gotta find something that's going to build that positive feeling within you.
yep,
Now, for you and I, it's digging ourselves into the good book, but maybe it's workout, maybe it's painting, maybe it's walking, maybe it's whatever it is. But you got to do it. And like I said, you got to do it now. You got to figure out what that is, and you got to make time for yourself because there's just so much going on. Yeah,
yeah, and that's what I want to kind of touch back on too. Just because you're out in the world, I'm not saying you have to connect with anything, God or anything,
yeah,
but when you're out on the walks, man, just unplug yourself and just kind of let yourself go. Just kind of enjoy the moment. Just take the
yeah,
walk and just take everything in and just
yep,
relax as you're doing it. It kind of,
yeah,
it might sound like, oh, that's a waste of time. I got so much on my plate. I got so much to do. But, get some time to yourself. If you need, read a book, like you said, go work out. Find a hobby, do
mhm,
something on the side to
yeah,
kind of just help yourself. Just do something for yourself.
100%, 100%. So if you're watching out here, take that time, find out what you like, find out what you want to do, find something, find an outlet, a positive outlet, and take care of yourself.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing, though. Positive, positive, positive.
Yeah,
And if anything, for the person that's dealing kind of with like a negative background, you've been around it all your life, your parents have been that way. There's so much you can get help, but also at the same time you can find a lot of it on YouTube by listening to positive uplifting stuff. Just type that in. Go on YouTube, listen to that, or you can listen to stories like ours on the podcast. Talking, hear us talking and how we
yep,
handle the situation.
yep.
But know
You
this,
know,
though, you are not alone. You're
well,
not.
I think too that a lot of people are hungry for those resources. I can remember I had a kid come in and we would talk, and it's just started out like, "Hey, how you doing?" And then, before you know it, "Hey, how you doing on your faith journey?" Then before you know it, he'd come in and probably every day, and at least the first part of the week, I'd say, "Hey, here's something I want you to read, and we can talk about that this week." And then he'd come in my office every day, and he'd bring his paper. He wrote little notes on it, and I said, "Oh man, that's so cool that you're reading this." Well, one day I was talking to him, and somebody else came in and said, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" I said, "Well, we're talking about our faith. You want to join us?" "Oh, yeah, I'll sit down. Well, I'll hear what you have to say." Before you know it, I had like three other kids in my office, and we were all talking about our faith. There are people out there that people can turn to.
Mhm.
You don't think it, you don't know it, but even if you're a high school student, there's going to be other high school students that are feeling the same way that you're feeling.
And that's
The
what I was
question is,
speaking
how do
to.
you connect with them?
Yeah, well, that's what I was beginning to touch on is you guys are not alone. You might feel like that in this world where nobody knows what you're going through or what's happening around you, but understand yet that you are not alone. There's people like you and I that are dealing with the same battles, same situations. And there's
Yeah,
people like us that you're hearing on the podcast that want to help, that are here. That's kind of what our God chosen purpose is sometimes to help
that's
you,
right.
to help people. And,
Yeah,
we're not perfect. We go to other people and talk to them to get help. That's all part of the plan is
that's right.
coming together as one.
Yeah, spot on. And now I know where I can go for more help.
Amen. Amen. Here I am.
I love it.
All right. Back to your career. We keep getting into it.
I love it. It's all
Gotta
good.
love it.
That's right.
All right. They're handing me some questions now. So, can you share some key moments or challenges? We kind of just touched on this that shaped your path in the mental health field.
My past in the mental health.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I think unofficially as a teacher, I've always, I mean, even go back before teaching, I went into cardiac and pulmonary rehab to help people, right? You have that personality that you want to help people. Um, I think unofficially, I kind of got into it as a teacher, and you reach out as a teacher because you want to be that helper. And unofficially, you'd call students in, and you'd try to help them through their problems. And um, it wasn't until the beginning part of this year that I turned to officially become a mental health coach, and it's because I just felt like I needed some sort of uh, 22 years as a teacher gets you in the door, but felt like I needed some sort of certification to actually make me a real mental health coach. And what I loved about mental health coaching is it takes the person where they are, and then we go from there. I don't worry about what happened in the past because there's nothing you can do about it. What I love about mental health coaching is what can we do now to ensure that you have the best life and you can be the best person you can be. Let's figure out what that is. Let's figure out how we're going to get there. Let's figure out what kind of roadblocks you're going to have, and let's figure out how you're going to get around those roadblocks. I think that's
Okay.
important.
I'm kind of curious too, out of curiosity. During your football career, how many times were you the one kind of helping with other people's problems in the football locker room, or just pulling people to the side, saying like, "Can I help you?" Has that always been there, or
That's a horrible example because no. I mean, like I said, I was a mean football player. If you weren't doing your job, I hated you. Um, I was that guy. I mean, I played football. What was it back in the mid '80s and back? No, I mean, I didn't care about anybody back then. It just hit me as I kind of got out of college, and once football was over, then I started working. I started thinking for myself and actually using my brain a little bit. Then it kind of built upon then. So I would say strongly in the last 20 years, but no, I didn't always have it.
and then that's what like we were saying before we started the show is like a lot of people came up to you and were like, "What are you doing now?" You said at your 10-year reunion. Like,
Yeah.
what are you doing now these days? And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm teaching. Like, what?
Teaching, what do you teach in basket weaving? No, I actually teach anatomy physiology for med students. What?
Like, what? What are you talking
Stop
about?
it.
No
You
way.
don't even know how to read. Yeah, I know all about the muscular system and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
But I mean, we touch on it enough though. Even in those moments that you think you know what you got planned at that moment. Right now, even whoever's watching, you're in high school, you're like, I got it all figured out. He was in high school, he was a football star, a stud that was ready to make it to the pros. But now here he is, many years later. He's a
You
mental
know,
health.
my favorite saying is, you want to see God laugh or you want to hear God laugh, tell him what your plans are.
Tell him your plans.
Yeah, because it's not going to work out that way. He's got better plans for you.
He's like, oh, really?
Yeah.
That's
Interesting. I got something better for you.
interesting. What's next
Oh,
for you? Let's see how that works out for you. I got something else planned for you, but let's
that's
see how
right.
that goes for you.
That's right. That's right.
Um, what advice do you have for the individual looking to get into the mental health and the well-being field?
Oh, well, um, I think the biggest thing I can do is you got to realize um, you're going to be in there for the long run. You got to make sure you put yourself out there. You have to be vulnerable, just like the people that you're helping with are going to be vulnerable. Um, and I think what you said earlier was actually spot on too, is you're going to have to really take care of yourself because you can't be a good resource if you're not a good resource. And if you're dealing with the problems all day, you're going to have to put yourself in a good mental state in order to help him. So that's probably the biggest thing you can do. I mean, you got to have the desire to help other people, but you also have to be able to take care of yourself.
Amen. Well said.
Yeah. Thanks.
But my advice on the situation, I'm not a mental health coach. I'm just a normal guy. But just in case you missed it or skipped up to this part of the podcast, really, when it comes to helping with other people's problems, is yes, you're doing yourself a favor with doing this and helping them out a lot. But a lot of times, at the end of the day, you're gonna have to step back for yourself and kind of recharge because it does. It gets mentally draining. It takes a lot out of you. I mean, it drains your energy when you're doing your best. You're going above and beyond for that person and doing as much as you can to make them feel good, to make them get where they need to be, to understand that, they're not alone. But at the same time, as you're doing this, it does. And you can tell you from yourself, people tell you, it drains you. And you got to have some type of source, somebody to go to talk to. Not telling them the people's problems because that's you and that person's business, but somewhere to kind of just let it out and then regain your energy and let it come back to you, if that makes
Right.
sense.
It does. Remember, there's three things that we all need as humans, right? Faith, hope, and love.
Preach.
You got to have all that. That's what it goes back to.
Preach. Preach. So we're beginning to touch too, but pre-COVID, it's been 3 years. How do you envision the future of mental health, of awareness and support?
Yeah, well, I think Governor DeWine kind of shared how this is going to progress, right? I mean, we're going to try to hopefully identify more and more people. We know there's a situation. Look at the stats nowadays. Mental health issues are going up. The trend in every category is going up. The costs that it's costing America are going up. We know it's out there. There's no more hiding it, and you can't pretend it's not there. I think more and more people are understanding the need for mental health. I think more and more people are going to now be trained to recognize it. And now we just have to be ready to be able to do something for them. And the psychologists and the psychiatrists that are helping with what I call the heavy load, um, they're going to be taxed. We need a ton more people going into that area. But also the mental health coaches like I am that goes into the what I call a little bit of the lesser ones, the stress management ones, and the helping with the kids and the motivating. I mean, our world needs that younger generation to be strong. our world needs to give that younger generation hope. We need to give them the feeling that they can succeed. If we're going to survive as a country and if we're going to thrive as a country, we're going to have to make sure that our young people know all that. So I think it's coming. I think there's going to be obviously a lot more recognition for it. Hopefully that leads to more and more discussions about it. I know in December, I'm talking at the Ohio Community College Athletic Conference to all the athletic directors. And we're going to share some words and share hopefully share some wisdom with them. And hopefully it's going to move forward, and hopefully we're going to be able to attack this. We're never going to cure it, of course, but we're going to actually hopefully make a difference. And that at the end of the day, it's all we really want to do is help people.
Couldn't say it much better than that.
Just
Couldn't
the
say
right
it
way.
much better than that.
Good.
All right, as we begin to wrap this thing up, we're gonna kind of go into another direction. We're gonna ask like some silly questions, some
Okay.
unrelated questions to the career.
Okay.
But if you could
Mm-hmm.
go anywhere in the world, it's all paid off, all expenses are taken care of for a whole week, where are you going?
It's a great question. My wife and I talk about it a lot. We've been blessed. We've done a ton of traveling. Mexico, Hawaii, Italy. She's been to Africa 3 times. There's 2 places that stick out that I haven't been to yet. Number 1 is Australia. Love to go to Australia as long as I don't get bit by any of those big bugs over there.
No, that's the first thing that popped in my head. Like you see it all the time on social media. It's
Yeah, me
just all
too.
the different crazy stuff that's in Australia, and everybody's like,
I
"No, no, I'm
know.
good. I don't want to go over there."
I know. And we were actually talking to the, I think it was the Minister of Education for Australia because of my wife's program. And the back of our head, we are talking, oh, maybe he's going to invite us over there. That'd be kind of cool. But if not there, I mean, we haven't been up to the Sweden area. We haven't been up that area. We've been to Europe a lot, but probably Australia or Sweden.
Now, my answer for that question is, I'd like to go anywhere really. My fear is I would like it too much over there, and I probably never come back.
Where have you been that you want to go back to?
So far I've only been here in the States, but at all the
Okay.
places I've been to that I really felt home here in the States I'd have to say North Carolina. North
Yeah, it's
Carolina,
nice.
I just fell in love with that, just the scenery and everything that was there. Just yeah,
Yeah.
I know it kind of reminded me of Ohio a lot in a way, but yeah, I liked it there. Just being all over the place. I mean, I don't know why everybody's so sold on Florida. I've been down there several times, but to me,
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, it gets really hot during the summertime, and
it does.
then hurricane season comes through, and it's like, I mean, I can
Yeah.
understand you got the warm weather all year round, but you got a lot of other stuff
Yeah.
that's going on.
Yeah. Well, so my wife and I were over in Rome and we are staying at the Colosseum. And number 1, you got to get to Rome because their streets are narrow and you'll be walking along the street and you'll see these 3-4 story buildings and there's apartments and houses and all kinds. But then all of a sudden the road will open up and you'll see this fountain that was built in the year 200. You're like, wait, when was it built? That building, like even look at the Colosseum. I mean, it's still standing there. What? It was crazy. Well, so my wife and I are standing at the Coliseum, and we decided we want Italian food, but we want real Italian food. We don't want any kind of, uh, uh, well, we're gonna go for a walk. We want real Italian food. So we walked probably a couple miles, found this hole in the wall, and probably sat 40 people, and sat down on my chair, and the guy's back was literally touching my back. That's how small it was.
Wow.
And well, my wife and I, the only thing we really knew was that polo means chicken. So we know something on the menu we're going to order that has polo on it. And just as we're talking about that, the guy behind me turns around and says, "You guys should order a number 7." What? You speak pretty good English. Where are you from? Well, the United States. Oh, cool. So am I. What part of the United States are you from? Ohio. What? That is so cool. So am I. What part of Ohio? Just outside of Cleveland. Wait,
Like
wait,
what?
what? What part of he was a priest on sabbatical from Lakewood. And I happened to sat next to him. I'm from Wesley. So we're what, 15 minutes apart. We flew halfway around the world and we sat next to each other in a restaurant in Rome. Unreal. But he told us where all the cool spots were.
That's
Yeah.
all I can say.
Intervention. There you go. No
God.
big end.
All right, question number 2. I mean, you already answered this in your career, but if you could have did anything else in your career, anything else, any profession, what would it have been?
I would have loved to make it to the NFL. An athlete of some sort, I think. I like I said, I love playing football. If injuries weren't part of the program, I would have loved that. I love that game. Um, it's
Actually,
funny though because
wait. Since it's football season, I should ask,
yeah,
which
yeah.
NFL team would you have wanted to play for?
Well, I grew up in Detroit, so I wanted to. I was a Lions fan back then. But then
Die
they moved indoors and they played on artificial turf. So, um, but I was really a Lions fan back then.
Detroit.
Yeah, I was a Red Wings fan even more so. Uh, so yeah. But when I got hurt in college with one of my knee surgeries, my dad would take me golfing. He goes, "We're going to get your knee better, but you're going to learn how to play golf too." So we strap up the back of the golf clubs on my back, and we just walk the course. And he goes, "This is the way you're going to get your knee better. We're gonna actually just walk 18 holes, and we're going to do it 3-4 times a week, and you're going to get your leg better." And consequently, it was phenomenal times with my dad. Um, he taught me a lot about golf. He taught me how to play. It's just memories out the wazoo, and I just incredible times. So I could be a pro golfer. What do you play when the weather's nice?
Professional golf, yes.
You don't even need to be the best one. If you're in the top 100, you're still making a good penny. So yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like a bad way to go.
No,
Nowadays, they can wear whatever they want. So yeah, it's kind of cool.
and depending on how you golf, it can be the most relaxing sport too.
Yeah, not the way I play, but yeah,
If you're competitive, it's a different story. But
that's right. That's right.
all right. Number 3. Is there
Yeah.
something about you that we should know that we haven't touched on yet?
Hmm. Well, you'd have to ask somebody who knew me. Um,
Or I said, let me reword it. Is there a special talent that you have that you'd like to tell us about?
um, I love art. I love to draw. I love to. Um, some people around me would say that I'm pretty talented at that, um, but I love doing that. I'm definitely a Mr. Fix-It guy. Not a lot of things around the house I can't fix, and it's only because I had a neighbor that once took me under his wing and showed me how to fix absolutely everything. My first time homeowner, my next door neighbor would come over and I'd be able to go to his house and he showed me just absolutely everything. And uh, yeah, that's so probably one of those two things. Either I'm a handyman, I can fix things, or I'm an artist.
I can definitely see it. All right.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yep.
Would you rather have a book written about you, or would you rather have a movie made about you?
Hmm. Who's starring as me?
That's up to you.
Let's see. Um, I think I would like. I think I'd like a movie. No. The question is why. Hmm. I think I think it would just be funny to watch. Like I don't know if I have a life worth a movie, so it'd be kind of interesting to see what kind of artistic, what's the word I'm looking for? What kind of artistic plans they would have to make my life into a movie. Like what would they do? I mean, what's there to prove? I went to high school. I went to play football. I got hurt. I didn't make it. So then I went and got a job. I don't know. Um, maybe there's some inspiration out there. I don't know. But
I could see the movie playing out in my mind already.
how's that look?
He went from being the NFL star, that was his chosen career path. It would be an inspiration movie. I see it already. He wanted to be a football star, just like everybody else was at that time. They wanted to be the
Yeah.
professional. They wanted to get to that level. But a career-ending injury happened to him mid-college, and he had to face the decision, the reality that this wasn't for him no more, and his dreams slowly but surely faded of the NFL stuff. But then he wondered, what was next? What was going to happen to him next? Because that was all his life was up to that point. And that's when God stepped in and said, I got something for you.
Too bad the series The Chosen's already taken.
Could you see yourself being an actor, playing and stuff?
No.
No.
No, I don't think so. I don't know. I've wondered what it would be like to be an actor, but I mean, with fame comes a lot of stuff you probably don't want.
Yeah, I've been
I'm
an
assuming I'm
extra.
going to be famous after this podcast.
Yeah, well, I've been an extra in a few films, but nothing
Which ones?
crazy. A movie called Spring Breakers when I was in Florida. I was actually an extra in that, and I got free McDonald's because of
For
it.
life?
Huh? No, just
For
for
life?
just for the movie, just for like a
Okay.
one-time deal. And I mean, it was okay. I told a lot of people that I was in it for a while until I actually watched the movie myself, and I was like, yeah. I'm in that movie though. I'm one of the guys in the background.
Nice.
Then there was another time when I was down in Florida. Why does stuff happen in Florida? Where I was on the boardwalk, and I happened to be in a shirt shack place. I was, just browsing the store, looking at shirts and stuff and whatnot. But I guess MTV was coming through, and they were doing the documentary on some girl about something, and I guess they had captured my face in it, and they pulled me off to the side and told me, pretty much offered me once again McDonald's. Like here's a free gift card to go get yourself a sandwich. And then I had to, give them permission to use my face or not, because that's what you see a lot of times is everybody that's in the MTV, like in the background, they do have to ask them. They have to ask for their permissions. And if the person says no, you'll see their face blurred out. But for me, I was like, no, it's okay. You can use it. I'm not worried.
Nice. Nice.
But here I am now on the podcast doing my own thing.
You're right there. You're still doing it.
I'm still doing my thing. Okay, last question I want to ask.
Okay.
Okay, so somebody wants to get a hold of you, connect with you. How can they do that?
Yeah, they can find me on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I guess that's probably two of the best ways to get a hold of me, right? I mean, I'm on LinkedIn. There was both my names, so just Pete Dubois. You can find me both places.
So if you're moved or touched by his story, there you go. That's how you connect to him. Or if you just
Yeah,
want to talk to him
absolutely.
more and get to know him a little bit more, that's an awesome other way.
Love to talk. Love to help people out. Absolutely.
But other than that, this is Chris. That's Pete. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Until next time.